Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Carmen McGuinness, and on this channel we discuss relationships of all sorts, including what I call the primary relationship, which is the relationship that we have with ourselves. Welcome back to my regular subscribers. I have gone over 1,200. Thank you very much. And welcome to any new people visiting. And also very pleased to have gone over 500,000 views across my videos. Just this past few days. So thank you to all of you for that. So moving along, today we're going to discuss a tender topic. Imagine that, a tender topic coming from me. This one is titled, Be Careful What You Wish For, Getting Real About Narcissism. Now, I know there's an awful lot said on the internet, YouTube in particular, about narcissists, and in particular about narcissistic men. Today we're going to revisit that topic, and some of what you've seen on YouTube has actually been from me. I address the topic quite often. But if you're viewing this segment, you've probably had at least one encounter with a narcissist, and at least one of those encounters was probably the real deal. They are out there. And you might have thought something like, wow, there aren't even that many of them around. Why do they have to find me? I know I had that thought at one point in my life. And I've done several segments covering that fatal attraction between the narcissist and his woman. That's the title of one of the videos. A certain kind of person, shall we say. And I'll put up some links to a few of those here. According to the Diagnostic Manual of the American Psychiatric Association, the occurrence of narcissistic personality disorder, those are the people that are diagnosed, is estimated at 1% in the general population. I think we all agree it's probably slightly higher. I think even the American Psychiatric Association probably agrees that it's probably a bit higher. Perhaps 2 to 3%. But records have to be kept, and accurate, provable numbers have to be reported. I think it's probably closer to probably 3%. And I know my male viewers don't like to hear this, but another little tidbit for you is that there are more male narcissists than females. That's just, it is what it is. But that's not why I address this segment primarily to women today regarding the men that they took to be narcissistic. The reason that I'm addressing it primarily to women, and guys, don't turn me off yet, you can stay, but primarily to women is twofold. Number one, I am a woman. Yes, I am. And I'm also a behavioral therapist. That's true. And I have had clients of both sexes who have been taken in by narcissist partners. But I can speak directly to this topic as a woman. So that's why my voice comes from my woman voice. And I might add, one of those women who attracts bad boys. That's who I am. It does happen. I'm working on it. Life is a process, right? So the second reason is that what I'm going to talk about is the behaviors of all men. Well, most men. So this segment is for the ladies to tease apart what's just guy behavior versus what's narcissism at play. And right at the end, I'm going to just very briefly deal with how to manage that when it's happening and you don't know which it is. So let's get started. I'm excited. So we'll start with love bombing. We're going to talk about two behaviors of men today. One is love bombing, and that one is particularly men. And the second is ghosting. So I remember the first time I heard the term love bombing. It was 1970-something. I don't want to give my age away here, but it was way back in the 70s. My family was living in Italy, And I have a sister who's quite a bit older than me. She was an adult. I was 12 years old. My older sister was being courted by a very good-looking and very rich Italian engineer, perhaps 10 years her elder. After a lot of negotiating, my father had consented to let him take her on a date. He arrived dressed in a gorgeous Italian leather jacket. It was winter in Tuscany, leather jacket weather for sure. He announced that he'd selected his comfortable car for the evening, which was a very beautiful, rather large BMW, rather than the sports car he'd been driving when she first met him. He handed her a bouquet of fresh-cut flowers that he'd brought for her and bowed, like literally bowed, to my mother as he kissed my mother's hand. As they pulled out of the driveway, my father commanded me, in a loud voice, get his license plate number. I ran up the stairs and I dutifully jotted it down very quickly, brought it back down to my dad. I don't think my father was as impressed with this guy as my mother was after he kissed her hand. The next several weeks of my sister's life were something of a whirlwind. Daily flower deliveries, daily. After dinner phone calls every night without fail. A road trip to Rome for the opening of the opera. Another road trip to Milan where she got a personal tour of the Fiat factory that he ran. I think it was after the third flower delivery that my father said to my sister, he's love bombing you. I don't trust him. Later, when Dad was sleeping in his big overstuffed chair, I asked my mother, what's love bombing? I was very excited to hear. What I recall most about her answer was the light that came to her eyes. Now, my parents were in their 40s when I was born, so Mom was not a young woman at this point. And I remember the very thing she said when she told me about love bombing. She said, your father love bombed me for 2 months before I finally accepted his marriage proposal. That's the part I remembered, that part, and the light in her eyes. Deconstructing love bombing isn't hard. It's lots of compliments mixed with lots and lots of details about him. His great job, his nice car, his beautiful home, his culinary skills, midnight texts, teasing you with details of what a great lover he is. If only you'd let him show you. Flower deliveries, lots of flower deliveries, more of them, and of course, more compliments. Notice how you felt when I described all of that. Probably pretty nice, right? Who doesn't want to be love bombed? Unless it triggered you over that guy who ghosted you as soon as you let him show you what a great lover he was. And I'm very sorry if it did. I don't wish to trigger anyone here today. But here's the deal, ladies, if you're still with me. And guys love bomb. They just do. They want to let us know that they think we're amazing, that they want to make love to us, that they want to be with us, and that they are amazing too, and that we should notice that they're amazing. How else are they going to get that message across than to love bomb us? Unfortunately, things don't always work out in life. He might break it off. He might break it off sooner than later. And if he does, he might ghost you. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that's not a reason to deny love bombing in your future. It's not a reason to see it as a sign that this new love bomber is going to break it off too, like the last guy did. Not a reason to assume that he's a narcissist. Love bombing is just the language of love. It's what men do and say, and it's a lovely language indeed. Bottom line, be careful what you wish for. If you turn your back on, maybe even run from, the next love bomber, you might be running from the man of your dreams. At least for a while. And if you're not open to love bombing, what exactly are you open to? How is somebody going to let you know? Are you open to a humble man? Without flowers? One who doesn't tell you how beautiful you are and how much he wants you? No, 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 not for me anyway. No, I'm not open to that guy. Makes me think of that song. I remembered the name earlier. Give me a minute. When You Say Nothing at All. That's the title. When You Say Nothing at All. I believe the artist is Alison Krauss, or Krauss, I think, with a K. It's a beautiful song. Very, very sweet melody. But what I want my man to tell me is how he feels about me, not how humble he is. I don't want him to just sit there and I somehow fantasize that he is thinking it or feels it. If I just start imagining how he feels, it is a fantasy. And that's really all it is, because I don't know unless he tells me. I want to hear it and I want to see it. Now, let's talk about ghosting. This story that I'm going to tell now isn't about my sister, though let me tell you straight up. My sister is gorgeous. Strawberry blonde hair. She had lots of stories. But this one is about me. It was 1980-something now. I am a grown-up. I have had a marriage of sorts. And I was recently divorced from my first husband and had a young son. Yeah, I said first husband because I've been married 3 times. Long story. I was raising my son alone, working a day job and going to university at night, studying psychology, my undergraduate degree. Well, I was at lunch in a little bistro near my job one afternoon. I'm back in Florida. I was living in Fort Lauderdale when the most adorable Cuban guy starts chatting me up. I mean, he was seriously good-looking guy. He love-bombed me, of course, told me about his great job. He was a grocery manager, a chain of grocery stores, showed me his sporty Peugeot convertible parked just outside the window, told me I was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen, not just today, not just this week, but ever. Asked if he could touch my hair. Of course he could. Long story short, short story short, because it didn't last long, we had an amazing 2-week affair. And that included a weekend in the Bahamas. I had already booked myself a cruise to the Bahamas, and so he just hopped on. He booked a cruise, and we went together. And then, and I'm not proud of this part, I stopped answering his phone. And guys, I'm sorry if this is triggering you, but I stopped answering his phone calls. This is way back when phones hung on kitchen walls, and you might even have what they called an extension on your nightstand, on your night table. I don't know what happened. I just wasn't interested anymore. I kind of knew there was something else out there waiting for me to find it, and it wasn't him. Poor guy left messages, sent flowers, pinned notes on my front door. I know, I'm bad. I should have just told him, but I didn't yet, and this is the part I want you to think about ghosting. I didn't yet have that skill. I didn't know how to tell someone that he wasn't the one. Not unless I was really angry, of course, like when I told my first husband he'd cheated on me for the last time and moved out. I moved out. But I wasn't mad at this guy. He was very nice. He was sweet. He was an angel. So I just moved on and didn't really explain myself. I guess I ghosted him. I did get the skill eventually. Later, I owned my own business, still do. When you own a business, you get skills that you didn't have before. If you have to fire someone, you can't just sort of like stop paying them and change the locks. So I did finally get the skill to be able to say, this is not a marriage made in heaven, and I'm out. I have to admit, I'm still not very good at it. I'm not good at firing people. I'm not good at breaking it off with people either. So if you feel you were ghosted, maybe your guy just didn't know how to tell you that you're not the one, or it's not the right time for him, or there's something else going on in his life that, sorry to say it, is more important. And in honesty, I mean, honestly, just between you and yourself and nobody else, just your honesty. Did you kind of see the signs that you were going to get ghosted maybe? Did you maybe even kind of know this from the get-go that this wasn't going to last? I think my good-looking Cuban guy probably saw the signs when I wouldn't let him meet my son. No point in doing that when you're not going to be serious about somebody. So I promised I'd give you some tips on how to manage things if you're not sure. If you're not sure if it's love bombing, or if you have a fear that you might get ghosted. First of all, if you're not sure if it's love bombing, it is. But the point of the whole first part of this is that that's what guys do. That's how they let you know that they're into you. So my very best advice for you is never close your heart. A closed heart sees, hears, and feels absolutely nothing, and can learn nothing. Think about it. If you couldn't see, hear, or feel, you would learn nothing. You would not know what's going on in the terrain around you. In this case, the emotional terrain. An open heart is vulnerable, it's true, but at least its eyes, ears, and feelings can guide it. And this is the part that takes us to trusting yourself. Trust yourself to know. Expect the best, always expect the best. And if you get something less, let it go. It wasn't meant for you. So I hope this has been helpful. I think you can see it came from my heart and my family history, illustrious though it isn't. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your Sunday. I hope that the fates are kind to you. And I will see you on Wednesday for my midweek sneak peek. Until then, have a great week. Toodles!